During World War II, the Atlantic Ocean became one of the most dangerous battlefields in the world. Hidden beneath the waves, German submarines known as U-boats hunted Allied ships traveling across the ocean. These submarines were designed to strike without warning. They could remain hidden underwater for long periods and attack enemy ships using powerful torpedoes. Merchant ships carrying supplies to Britain were especially vulnerable. When a U-boat launched an attack, entire convoys of ships could be destroyed within minutes. For Allied sailors crossing the Atlantic, the ocean was no longer a safe route. Instead, it had become a deadly hunting ground controlled by German submarines. Germany understood that Britain depended heavily on supplies arriving by sea. Food, weapons, and fuel all traveled across the Atlantic Ocean. If these supply routes were cut off, Britain could struggle to continue fighting the war. To achieve this goal, German naval commanders relied on their powerful submarine fleet. These submarines, called U-boats, were designed to attack Allied shipping routes. German submarines operated in groups known as wolf packs. When one submarine spotted a convoy, it would secretly report the location to other U-boats nearby. Soon, several submarines would gather to launch a coordinated attack on the convoy. Life inside a German U-boat was extremely difficult for the crew. The submarines were small and crowded, leaving very little space for the sailors. Crew members worked long hours while surrounded by complex machinery and equipment. The air inside the submarine often became hot and uncomfortable. Fresh air was limited and food supplies were carefully rationed. Despite these difficult conditions, the crew had to remain alert at all times. Enemy ships, aircraft, and destroyers constantly searched the ocean for submarines. One mistake could lead to the submarine being detected and destroyed. Every mission inside a U-boat was dangerous. German U-boats became especially dangerous because of a strategy known as the wolf pack tactic. Instead of attacking alone, multiple submarines worked together to destroy Allied convoys. When a submarine spotted enemy ships, it secretly followed them and reported their location to German command. Soon, several U-boats would move into position around the convoy. At night, the submarines surfaced and launched coordinated torpedo attacks from different directions. This strategy made it extremely difficult for Allied ships to defend themselves. Entire convoys were sometimes destroyed within hours as U-boats attacked from the darkness of the Atlantic Ocean. Once the U-boats moved into position, the attack began. Submarines launched powerful torpedoes toward the cargo ships and tankers traveling in the convoy. These torpedoes moved quickly through the water and exploded when they struck a ship. Many ships were destroyed within seconds. The explosions lit up the dark ocean as burning vessels slowly sank beneath the waves. Allied sailors often had little warning before the attack began. For many merchant crews crossing the Atlantic, every journey carried the constant fear of a hidden submarine attack. During the early years of the war, German U-boats caused enormous damage to Allied shipping. Hundreds of ships were destroyed across the Atlantic Ocean. These attacks threatened the vital supply routes that connected North America to Britain. Food, weapons, fuel, and equipment were all transported through these dangerous waters. If the convoys failed to reach Britain, the country could face serious shortages. For a time, the German submarine fleet seemed unstoppable. The Atlantic Ocean had become one of the most dangerous places in the world during World War II. As German U-boat attacks increased, the Allied nations began developing new ways to fight back. Naval forces introduced advanced technologies such as sonar, which allowed ships to detect submarines hidden beneath the ocean. Warships called destroyers were assigned to escort merchant convoys across the Atlantic. These destroyers carried powerful weapons known as depth charges. When sonar detected a submarine underwater, the destroyers dropped depth charges into the ocean. These explosives were designed to detonate at specific depths, creating powerful underwater blasts capable of damaging or destroying a submarine. Slowly, the balance of the battle in the Atlantic began to change. By the later years of World War II, the situation for German U-boats became much more difficult. Allied ships, aircraft, and improved technology made it harder for submarines to remain hidden. Long-range patrol aircraft began searching the Atlantic Ocean for submarines. Radar systems also allowed Allied forces to detect U-boats when they surfaced. As a result, many submarines were destroyed during patrol missions. The once dominant U-boat fleet began suffering heavy losses. The Battle of the Atlantic slowly turned in favor of the Allied forces. Battle of the Atlantic became the longest continuous battle of World War II. For years, German submarines attempted to cut off the vital supply routes between North America and Europe. If these supply routes had failed, Britain could have faced severe shortages of food, fuel, and military equipment. However, Allied cooperation, improved technology, and determined naval forces eventually defeated the submarine threat. Convoys were able to cross the Atlantic safely again. The defeat of the U-boat fleet played a major role in allowing the Allies to continue fighting and eventually win the war.